Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Boss Talks. I'm Kristine Drummond and I'm here with my co-host Joel Lord, and we are so excited about today's topic. It is the second last topic in the series from the Law of Success book that we have been presenting each chapter, each lesson every week for you guys, regurgitating this information so that you guys can implement it in your own lives, in your own businesses. And I think today's chapter is going to be life-changing for some of you business owners out there. We're going to give you some strategies straight from the book that if you implement, I was just saying to Joel offline, will exponentially grow your business, your bottom line. So if you would love to hear some simple strategies, then stick around. And if you love this information, the only fee is that we ask you to share it. Please share this if you feel like other people could benefit from these strategies, from the education, the information, and the inspiration that we provide, and help us get the word out there on how to help people live their best life or live their boss life. So the first thing we need to do in regards to this chapter is talk about intolerance. And he says there's two parts to intolerance. So intolerance is a form of ignorance which must be mastered before any form of enduring success may be attained. It is the chief cause of all wars, and it makes enemies in business and in professions. The second thing is intolerance is a chief disintegrating force in the organized religions of the world, where, you know, we kind of play against each other in those religions. So we have to look at those two things in intolerance before we can kind of dig deep and really, you know, get to the crux of success. So Joel, I want to bring you in here because we see a lot of intolerant people out there. We see a lot of intolerance in business. We come across a lot of intolerant business people, don't we? And sometimes this intolerance is what is really holding people back, you know?
It sure is. And it's like, this was an amazing chapter. And like, it really, I think as of the 22nd of the 5th, 2021, you know, the recording of this, you only got to look at the news. You only got to look at what the world's going on with, and just like see that there is so much intolerance. And it's, if you look a little bit deeper, it's not actually the intolerance that people are seeing in the news and the media. You know, like you see a lot of stuff around, you know, cancel culture, race, and all these things. And you know what? Like I don't see it. You know, I don't see it the way it happening, the way the news is saying that it's happening. Like, I think that it's easy to plant seeds, Kristine. I think it's easy to plant seeds in people's minds. And, you know, I can see there's a lot of money being spent on, I'll go off on a tangent here, but like I saw that there was an advertisement being paid for by goodness knows who, some government in Australia, where they're doing ads that are promoting things that I don't actually see happening. And you know, we're talking about intolerance, but, you know, a taxi driver pulling up and there's a darker man with dark skin. I don't know exactly what race he was, but he was standing there, and he'd been standing there for a while, and you know, a white Caucasian man, like, I guess similar to me, but better looking than me, but because there's an ad, but he's there, and he walks up, and just a taxi pulls up and says, pulls up to the white guy and says, "Oh, jump in." And he goes, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "Oh, actually, this guy's here first." And he's like, look, the taxi driver looks at him and says, "Oh, nah, like, that's all right." And, you know, and then when the guy challenges and says, "No, it's not all right," the guy turns the taxi's in use thing off and speeds off. Like, have you as an Australian ever seen that? That has never in my life happened, ever. Like, most people I come across are really freaking good people, really amazing people. You know, when I go to the park when I was at the Gold Coast with the kids and that, my kids play and there's probably 15 different races there at any one time. There's no nonsense. Like Vicky, my wife, talks to other mums. It doesn't matter about any of this bullshit. And then so what that leads me to believe as a free thinker, as someone on this podcast who's listening to this, like you're either on the way to that or you're already there. And you know, it's funny, Kristine, a little side note. I was talking to someone and I said, oh, my reach has gone down because I'm on social media because I'm saying some stuff that, like what I just said then, that people are good and don't believe the narrative. And my friend said, well, you know what? Your reach is probably down to the people that follow you religiously and they already believe what you're saying. So you almost don't need to say it anymore. I'm like, you're right. But the fact of the matter is I just see that most people, now there are dickheads in every race, there's chauvinistic men, there's whatever the female version of that is, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, I think people are good. I've seen you talk to people just randomly and I've never seen you get shut down. You know what I mean? Like, same with me. Like I say, I see tolerance. Kristine, what do you see in the world?
I see tolerance as well. And I have always been taught to see the good in everyone. That's definitely how I was brought up. And there's an interesting story in this chapter where he shares a conversation that he had with a senator, and the senator kind of said to him, I see that you're a very staunch Democrat, and I wonder if you know why you are. And then he blurted out, well, I'm a Democrat because my father was one, of course. And the senator then said, with a grin on his face, just as I thought. Now, wouldn't you be in a bad fix if your father had been a horse thief? And isn't this so true? Like, some of us are so stuck in our ways, in our religions, and or going for our footy teams as well. And we're only in those positions because our mother or our father believed in that. So, and I think we spoke about this on one of our previous podcasts, where often we are moving through life with other people's belief systems. They're not even ours. We didn't even get to choose them. We've just taken them on as ours and we've never questioned it. So what we're trying to get you guys to do is really start questioning, where did some of these beliefs come from? And we're not saying it's right or it's wrong, but just start forming your own opinions on, I think it comes back to that awareness, having more awareness, having more tolerance for what's going on. I'm not a religious person, but, I try and teach my kids about all religions, because I want them to make up their own mind. I don't force any religion on them. It's what do you believe in? We often get the question, who is God and what is God, or, Jesus and all that kind of thing. And I give them whatever information was passed to me, but then I say, but it's up to you to decide. And as a parent, I think that's a gift that we can give our children is, giving them the gift to challenge things, giving them the gift to think for themselves, giving them the gift of being able to cipher through information and making a decision based on facts or based on what feels right for them. Who am I to say whether, one religion is a fit for my daughter or not, and there could be a completely different fit for my son in a totally different religion? I don't know that. I want them to be able to, do their own research, experience their own, religious beliefs, spiritual journey, whatever they want to do. And then whatever they decide, it's not going to change who they are as a person to me. Does that make sense? So I think tolerance starts in the household, and tolerance starts with us as an individual. Are we the tolerant people that we think we are? Or do we get closed-minded and intolerant towards certain people or certain organizations or certain religions or certain sports? Or, I'm not a big fan of the cage fighting. I just I just can't fathom how popular that sport is. I understand that there is a lot of craft in it and a lot of skill and a lot of work goes on in the background. And I love that side of it. But the actual physical abuse that and violence that they're putting on each other, that's the part that I don't like. But I'm not saying that it's right and they're wrong and my opinion is right. I respect the athletes as athletes, and it's their choice that they participate in that kind of sport. But I'm tolerant to it. Do you know what I mean? But if my children decided to do a sport like that, I would be I would be educating them around the long-term health benefits that go with a sport like that, or not that they're benefits, but things that can happen down the track, from something like that. So you got to have all the facts, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent here, Joel, but I think that we need to really start questioning some of our own belief systems and the patterns that we run in our own lives before placing judgment on others that choose a different path.
100%. And you know what? I see a lot of people out there having a huge presupposition that they are right. Like, you're presupposing that you're right. And you could just as easily be incorrect. So, like, it's crazy. Like, there was a guy that I was helping with his business, and he was a really amazing guy, and he built his business very, very quickly. And the way, when you're building a business really, really quickly, things have got to change. So access to him 24 hours a day was how he built his business at the start. Now, when you scale that thing to a massive amount, something's got to change, right? So in the interim of that happening, or like the transition of that happening, people got their nose out of joint, and people started, having opinions and, sitting back. And I'm like, that is upsetting to this guy and upsetting to, the people that are having the opinions too. And people would come to me and, like, because I was working with him and good friends with him, and they were like trying to have their 2 cents and trying to actually get me involved in their 2 cents as well. Like, get the pitchforks out. I was like, hang on a minute. He's the one that's built the business, and you're presupposing that your way is right. How do you know you're right? And they're like, oh, well, we don't. And, me asking those kind of questions got me off the hook for the bandwagon pretty quick, and I probably have some pitchforks in my back because of that. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's all good, well and good to have an opinion, but how about not being closed-minded? And, like, I'm speaking about current events. I'm openly doing my research about, everything from, like the economy, infectious diseases, whether certain tools actually help you prevent or help the spread of, like, illnesses, and whether, all the stuff that's happening now actually helps or not. And I've formed what I believe to be educated, backed with, like, reasonable facts about what I believe is happening. And I'm totally open to having a discussion with someone who believes the opposite, because no one knows whether they're right or not about anything, let alone this. So what I'm saying is, like, open your mind, be prepared to be corrected, because there's no point in, like, defending your position when you're wrong. And I think that's going to happen. Well, it happens all the time. I think this is going to happen again in a big way. And there's a lot of people that have been very, very boisterous about their opinions, and they're going to work out that they've been scammed, and they're going to be angry, and they're either going to wake up and go with the flow and change their position, or they're going to try to defend it. And it's going to get sad. And I'm doing my best not to be one of those persons, because I could be wrong. So I guess where this comes into tolerance, Kristine, is like, you know, you got to be tolerant of other people's opinions because you could be wrong. You could be wrong. We could be wrong about what we say about parenting. There's things that I've even been discussing recently with regards to my kids, and I'm like, holy shit, I think I was wrong on that, and I would have fought to the death for that. You know what I mean? Like, I was very adamant that I was correct and I'd made the right decision, and I'm not so sure, and I'm open to being corrected, and that's all I got to say about that. Like, you got to have the tolerance, Kristine, to not think that you're so right that you close your mind.
I love that. And that's such a good line. And I feel like human behavior, we love to be right all the time, you know, and I don't know why and where that started from, but it's to save face, you know, it's to make us seem smarter than what we are, or to make us seem better than what we are. And, you know, and it's my hope that, you know, I'm not passing that on to my kids, because I want them to get things wrong. You know, don't we learn from our biggest mistakes? We get the biggest lessons from the things that we perceive as failures, but then they actually turn out to be the biggest blessing in the world. So I want to move now on to, you know, tolerance in business, and specifically in regards to children, you know. And in this chapter, he talks a lot about different industries and how you can win in those industries just by being more tolerant in harnessing or attracting the children. And he gave one example of if he was a banker, for instance. So if he was a banker, he sort of went into, and you probably see this with like the Dolomite accounts, and when we were at school, we got like the little bank money box, or you know, you had the bankers come to your school and give you like a little deposit book and everything like that. So it's one way of getting the whole family to do business with the bank, right? They're starting with the children, and that's how they get to the parents and increase their business. So he was sort of saying, if I was a banker, you know, as soon as the child's born, he would be reaching out to that child. And then once they're reading age, he would be sending them a book on how to save and the benefits of saving. And he would remain in contact with this child throughout their, you know, adolescence and everything. So by the time they get to, you know, having their own job, and they get to this stage of wanting a deposit or a loan or anything like that, who's going to be at the top of their mind? The bank that has been there from birth, the bank that has been there as they've grown up, you know, so they've created this loyal customer, this loyal client, simply by investing in adding value throughout their lifespan. He also went on to, like, if he was a grocer, you know, having an area for children to play. And I know here in Albury, they've just put in, you know, a Harris Farm Market, which has a big playground in the middle. So parents can go off shopping, the kids are in a gated playground area, or we can sit down and have dinner or lunch or whatever, and the kids can play, you know. And I know that a lot of families are going to that business because of that playground, you know, because the kids are sort of taken care of. He also spoke about if he was a barber, you know, making sure he has a room that was equipped exclusively for children. Now, on the Gold Coast, my daughter was up there recently without us, but she went to a hairdresser specifically for children that had a dance floor. It had thrones for the kids. It had all like music and kids play area. So mums and dads can bring kids in, and every single child, no matter what age, is entertained in the barbershop, and they can get the whole family done. Like, how smart is that? You know, just by making sure the kids are taken care of. So attract the children and you'll attract the parents. And if you're in any type of business, and I know for us as a family, we tend to go out for dinner at places that have play equipment, you know, and I know a lot of clubs and things, and Joel said this off air before. He said, look at McDonald's. What has McDonald's been doing since day one? They've had the kids play area. They've got the little Mac meals or whatever they're called. You can tell I don't go there very often, but whatever their little mini meals are called for kids, and they give a little toy. So this is how they keep the parents coming back. And it's through that branding as well. As soon as the kids see that golden arches, what are they thinking? Oh, that's where I get to play. That's where I get a toy. That's where I get fed. So we're hitting those children's needs. And that's why one of the reasons why McDonald's is so successful is because they've nailed the attracting the children, which then attracts the parents. Because what does a parent want? They want happy children, don't they? So Joel, I want to bring you in on this one. What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, I remember my kids when they were young, like Leo when he was younger, and Jet, they would say that they wanted to go play. And it wasn't because they were getting the food. It was because we hadn't really taken them there. They wanted to play. So they saw the big, bright playground and thinking playground. So yeah, it works, because parents actually would like 5 minutes peace and quiet. So you have a coffee and throw your kids in the little gated community there and, off you go. But I just got off a call with Ed Milet and Annie Priscilla. It's so valuable about scaling their businesses. And one of Ed's businesses is one that he has not met any of his staff, like personally, face to face. He's met them via, conference calls and everything like that. And, with the way the world is at the moment and the way it's heading, having a virtual, business is like actually going to mainly become more mainstream. And and to learn how to have a really great company culture is, while it's virtual, is going to be really, really a really valuable skill. And Andy Priscilla said today that company culture is the business unicorn. He goes, it's the number one asset you'll ever have. He goes, more than your products, more than anything else. He goes, it's the thing that takes the longest to create, and it's the most challenging to create, and most people quit before they create it and just say, oh, all that stuff we were doing doesn't work. He said, but, then you don't end up with a business like him, But the reason why I mention this is because one of the things that they do for the virtual business is they have virtual happy hour. So like everyone once a month brings a craft beer or something like that, and they jump on and they have a happy hour. And sometimes they'll have a Wheel of Fortune night. And sometimes I'll have a Jeopardy night, and sometimes I'll have a virtual card game, and like they have a lot of stuff. And he said what he actually does as well is he makes sure that he has certain rules, like you are not allowed to have you have to have your camera on, and you have to be unmuted. So you have to be paying attention. So it's like you think about it, if you're having a cup of coffee with someone, you can't turn your camera off and just go do something else, can you? You can't mute yourself and then go talk to someone else. So he has solid rules, like behave yourself, and what he actually got, so he involves the kids in the trivia nights and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things he did, and I really implore you, if you are a business owner, thinking to be a business owner, or, anywhere in between, do you have core values for your business, like what your company stands for? Look, it's okay if you don't. I highly recommend that you do, because what that means is when you are having staff and team members that aren't living up to your core values, it's really easy to say, hey, I'm curious, is how we're performing at the moment, working into, is that an example of how we want to live our core values? And if you've got people buying into it and you are living them yourself, your team's going to step up. So basically what Ed and Andy do is they were getting the team members to bring their kids along and just read out what the core values were and what they believed they stood for from a kid's perspective. And Ed said it was everything from so funny that his sides were splitting to so touching that it was bringing a tear to his eyes. Like, imagine a little 6-year-old talking about integrity and what that means to them. Now, just let that sink in for a minute. Can you vision you have a Zoom call or some sort of conference call with these people that you've never met, and you do that? You get them to read your core values, or you get them to talk about, why they believe mummy's doing such a good job in, your business, or like, get creative, guys, and, something that Ed said, I guess, finally, like, before I send it back, is that he knows he's hardcore. He knows he's like always about the business, and he's always about so he can do that. He plays that level, but his team can't. His team needs fun. He doesn't need fun, but his team needs fun. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because that's me. Like, I'm thinking I'm already I'd eradicated fun from the business already, and I haven't even like officially incorporated it yet. I'm just building it. And I'm like, oh shit, I've actually got to have a checklist for every meeting and make sure that I tick the fun box. So long story short, yes, bring the kids in, plant the seed into the kids. And if you have got something amazing that you're doing and you're a heart-centered entrepreneur and you believe in making the world a better place, far out. If you don't do it, the schools and the government and whatever other propaganda's out there that you may or may not agree with is going to fill their head. So yeah, Kristine, if you want to build a business, that's a good way to do it. I'm literally going to do that. One of the first things I'm going to do when I build my team is have online, maybe in-person trivia nights. Bring the kids in.
I love it, mate. I love it. And it sounds so simple, but it really does work. And you're right, it comes back to the culture. What kind of culture not only do you want for your organization, but what kind of culture does your employees want to be part of? And don't be afraid to ask them what values are important to them as an employee. And because the number one thing you want your employees to do is you want them to buy into your vision of where you're going. You want them to understand and have clarity around, wow, this is why we do what we do. You want them to feel part of your family, your business family. And that's the kind of culture, that we try to create in our business as well. It's just your extended family. That's what this is. So I love that, virtual happy hour. I think that's awesome. Involving the kids in a trivia night or something. And then, another one I thought of is that, well, if you're in the social media kind of platform is, interviewing the kids. What do they love about their parents being an entrepreneur? What do they love about their mum being able to work from home? What does that mean for them? I know that for a mum that does work from home, I know what it means to me, but I've never thought to ask my children to go, well, what's actually mean for you? And for me to be able to attend my little boy's special persons day last week with my mum, was just one of those moments in time that I'll never forget. The excitement on his face, being able to show us around, because we haven't been allowed in there, right? Because of all the pandemic stuff, we haven't been allowed in to the schools and the daycare centers to see what these kids are doing. So even just that 1 hour that we were allowed in there to see what's going on behind the scenes made us feel so much more connected to the organization, to the business, and created so many magic moments. And all it was an hour. So imagine opening your business, your organization, saying, guys, bring your kids in today. Let's bring your kids in and let's show them what we actually do at work. Let's show them what goes on behind these doors and why you have to leave so early in the morning to come to work. Why not have and invite your family day at your organization to get the families involved so they can understand why mum or dad has to go to work all the time. The other thing that's really popular right now too, Joel, is bring your pet onto a Zoom day. So I've seen this. It's so funny, all the different pets, and like you've got, I don't know, I think most pets have ADHD, I swear, because it's so hard to control. But yeah, if you've got a training or a business meeting or something virtually, like get people to bring their pets along, introduce their pets, let them. People love talking about their pets. They love sharing that as much as they do their kids as well. So all these little things add up. And I know that it may not mean anything to you, but people have different love languages. People have different human needs to you, and you want to be hitting different people at different times. Now, I don't have a pet, so the pet day thing would be useless for me, but bring my kids in, that's something that I would love, So you want to make sure that you are hitting all the different types of personalities and all the different human needs and all the different personality types and everything like that in your organization, so that you're retaining people. You're showing people that you're interested in them. They're not just another number. Okay. And it doesn't matter what religion, what skin color, what sex they are, what age they are. We want you to show tolerance to your entire organization. Yeah. And something that's, beautiful in our business is that we have all sorts of different religions and all sorts of people from all different countries. It's amazing. I love it. And I love getting in there and learning. And one of the things I ask my team is, tell me what it's like to be you. Tell me what a typical day is like in your life. And just uncovering what goes on when they go home, what goes on behind the scenes. I think that's really, really important. It shows people that you actually care. So yeah, Joel, I just wanted to finish on that note and, help give some strategies to the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it just comes back to that. Like, I've been in rooms for for the particular business you're talking about with tens of thousands of people. And we were in America, we've been all around the countryside, and you're right. There's it's funny until you mention it, you don't really notice it that's the way it is. But yeah, there is so many different religions and races, and everyone's in the room happy. And I don't see any intolerance. I see the exact opposite. I literally see the exact opposite. So I just be mindful, listeners, friends, about vocal minorities skewing what reality looks like. Think for yourself. Don't take even what Kristine and I say and work it out for yourself. We're not even claiming we're correct on everything. And yeah, there's plenty of examples of terrible things happening on the planet and intolerance. But it's just, if it bleeds, it leads, guys. It's you got to be open-minded that, hang on, could this be something else? Could this not be as bad as what we think we're being told it is? You know what I mean? And that goes for practically everything. So I guess the thing that I really wanted to get across about tolerance, Kristine, and I know that you won't be able to not say something about this, is listen, take a fucking joke. Learn to take a joke. What has happened? Everyone is walking around, so many people, not everyone, are walking around looking for ways to be offended. Seriously, they are cancelling comedians for jokes they told 20 years ago in a different time. They are cancelling movies that were created, that were classics, that were created, that no one is taking it the wrong way, but they're cancelling. They're going after, these vocal minorities are going after so much stuff. And, think about it. If you get invited to a party and you automatically think it's going to be shit, when you go to that party, you are going to be looking for things to make you right. You're going to be looking for evidence for you to be correct. So let's just say, and I'm going to be the positive one this time, Kristine, that I think that we're going to go to a party and it's going to be awesome. And then Kristine thinks, nah, it's going to be shit. Who do you reckon is going to enjoy themselves there? And who do you think is going to have the bad time? Okay, maybe I was a bad example because you're usually the one that finds the upside to parties and not me. I'm the opposite. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, the person who thinks it's going to be bad is going to be walking around looking for reasons why it's bad. And the person who thinks it's going to be great is going to be looking for reasons why they believe it's going to be great. So all I'm saying is when you're watching news or when you're going to gatherings or when you're, goodness me, living this amazing life, maybe lighten the hell up a bit. Chill out. Everything that everyone says doesn't have some hidden agenda to it. Sometimes a joke is just a joke. What if we just all took a step back and calmed down and learnt to laugh at yourself? Like, go look in the mirror and just laugh at yourself. Stop being so uptight. Not everything is intolerant. Not everything's racist. Not everything is sexist. Not everything is all this stuff that people are so like uptight about. So I know, Kristine, can you take a joke?
Yeah, this is a funny one, isn't it? Like I love comedians because it just allows me to switch off and just laugh my belly out, and so I love it. But there are some comedians that I've gone like Ricky Gervais. I love Ricky Gervais, but sometimes he goes too far. But I don't agree with every joke that he says, but I still see the humor behind the man. I still see, he's just trying to make light of things, make the world a happier place, make us laugh, challenge. He loves to challenge our thought processes. And I really respect him for that. And sometimes I've just gone, oh my gosh, I don't like that joke, but I haven't cut him off as a comedian because to every one joke where he goes too far, he's got 1,000 that are just so funny. And there's been other people that I've followed that have said crazy stuff. And I haven't cut them off because of one thing that they've said. It's just like, I'm definitely not perfect. And I say things that are not always right or always politically correct. And if you held me to that, we probably wouldn't have any listeners on here, Joel. But I totally get what you're trying to say.
I tell you, like, I never really liked Ricky Gervais until he called Hollywood out. He's literally one of my favorite people ever now. Like if you're listening to Hollywood stars and sports stars about life, like, I think you're obviously not going to be listening to this podcast, and you've got big problems because they are so disconnected and so intolerant that I would never listen to this. Like, you could nearly guarantee that if you did the opposite of what they said, you'd be a better human being. So yeah, it's just funny about Ricky Gervais. So yeah, like, totally here. But yeah, people need to calm the hell down and just be tolerant. Don't think that you're right all the time, and just, I don't know, chill out. So I know that's where I want to leave it.
I love that, Joel. Yeah, just be more open-minded and do your research. Find out what feels good to you, what's a fit for you, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys, and don't forget to follow us on our socials as well, because we have so much more going on behind the scenes than just this podcast. We offer a ton of value out there. So don't forget to go and look Joel Lord up and Kristine Drummond. And if we can support you in any way on your journey as an entrepreneur or a business owner, or just for those of you that just want to be the boss of your life, then don't be afraid to reach out. We are absolutely here for you guys because we want everybody to win. And that's why we continue to do these podcasts. So we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
Damn.